Gareth Southgate picked his provisional 33-man squad for the Euros, and we're going to talk about it right now. We're going to talk about some of the inclusions, but also some of the people that didn't make it into the squad. Broad strokes then, Kweku. Yeah. Are we happy with this 33, which will get whittled down to 26?
Yes, I am. And I think I'd come off the Southgate train a little bit, just because...
We had to have words last week.
We did have to have words last week. You weren't happy with me. But, brave squad. Brave squad, and he's, as the kids would say, he's standing on business. Like, he's picked players that have had good end to the season and young players that we're excited about. If you look at the likes of Adam Watson, obviously Kobe Mainoo was always going to be in there. But I like the look of this squad. Obviously, it has to be trimmed down. But the fact that he has left out players that he's relied on so heavily in previous tournaments and has gone with the young players. It reminds me of the 2010 World Cup where Germany went again. They got rid of everybody in terms of the bastions of German football. And we saw the likes of Mesut Ozil break through in that 2010 team that beat England quite handily. I think it was 4-1 that game. And this is not like that because there are still some very experienced players in this squad. But I think when you go to these major tournaments, especially Euros, not a World Cup, but Euros is a chance to do that. Yeah. The Euros is a chance to bring through some of these players that maybe haven't got international experience at major tournaments. And he's done that with his squad selection. So overall, I'm pretty happy. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think he is brave, but I think in his mind he doesn't think it's brave. It's logical. It's go. I think there's a sort of he's very clean in his thoughts. I don't think it's too sort of muddied. And so he gathers his information and he goes, well, Rashford's not been good enough, so I'm going to have a conversation with him like an adult and go, this isn't going to work. Same goes with Jordan Henderson, which we'll touch on both of those in a bit more detail. I think there's bravery in the sense, or there's hope in terms of Luke Shaw, and there's also a lot of things up against him actually at the moment. You think about the left-back situation. Centre-back situation is a bit awkward as well when it comes to, who's fit, who's not fit, so there's still some big decisions to be made. I think if you'd said to him at this time last year, what do you think will be your 33 next year? I think there's so many names on here that are nowhere near his thinking. No. And I hope people understand that like, his hand's been forced, I think, with some areas. So he's trying to have the right amount of experience at times, but also be brave enough to bring in those players in form. Because I think that's always a discussion when it comes to England, in the sense of, do you just have a guy who's on fire, but that guy could be named Michael Ricketts, who's going to score 10 goals in the first 10 games of a season, then we're never going to see him again? Yeah. Or is it someone, or is it just good enough that you've got to kind of bring him in? And I think there's a few names there that have done that.
I would say, though, in terms of his thoughts have not been muddied, the reason why people were so apprehensive going into this England squad is because he continues to pick people like Harry Maguire. And I know that he is short-handed when it comes to centre-backs, but when we look at notable omissions, we don't see an Eric Dyer there who has performed well for England at previous tournaments and is now playing at the highest level for a top team in the world. So I think people were a bit apprehensive because in the past he has shown us that his allegiances are with some players like Harry Maguire, who doesn't necessarily always play for Manchester United or hasn't been playing at a top level. So the fact that he has made these changes has taken a few by surprise, and it's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I think, again, that comes back to the balance thing of Kyle Walker's not a left back, but... Yeah. He's kind of stuck with that because it's all about contingencies. Like I was able to sort of spend a bit, not time with him, but he spoke at this thing. And when he was talking about it, he was talking about contingency plans all the time. That's where we're at right now. Yeah. Because we've got a lot of people that have had injuries this season. Just go through that list of names. So many of them. Even the backup left back or the first choice left back, who's not a left back in Kieran Trippier, he's had injuries as well.
And poor form
on the other side of the pitch. Anyway, who's not in the squad? Let's go through some names. Jadon Sancho, huge part of Dortmund's run to the Champions League, could still win that tournament as well. Yeah. Had he done enough to get anywhere near it, or is he a bit sort of, I guess, unfortunate, if anything, if he's going to sort of steam into the squad? Yeah. That's not the position where you're going to get in on the right-hand side, is it?
No, we've got a plethora of attacking talents, and if you think about some of the people that haven't made it, I think Jadon Sancho's done good things in terms of his PR, going to Dortmund and going again and kind of finding his feet and playing regular football, but the run just came a little bit too late to be selected for a Euro squad.
I agree. Marcus Rashford. So I think big omission. I think, again, if you want to kind of... This is the difficult thing, is like... This isn't the Premier League, but of course that bleeds into it. He's been poor for Man United. There's no way around that. For England, in a team where Harry Kane will certainly play, you'll have someone like Bukayo Saka on the right-hand side, or Cole Palmer most likely. On that left-hand side, there is an opportunity for pace and for pacing behind. Rashford is an option for that. But do you feel like sort of Grealish and Gordon, there's other players who are on that left-hand side, Foden as an option as well? Do you think that meant that it's okay for him to be out of it?
Gordon gives you that pace in behind, but Rashford does have that X factor that I don't think Gordon has just yet. So, like, I think this England team does lack a little bit of pace in terms of those wide areas. If you think about the way that Bukayo Saka plays out wide, he likes the ball into feet a lot of times, or he comes in a little bit more centrally. I know he hugs a touchline for Arsenal, but I don't think that's the case for England. So, like, I think this England team could do with a player like Marcus Rashford's pace, but he's not played well enough for Man United this season. So, would you, if you could change one thing about this England squad, would you maybe inject a bit more pace into it, or do you think that we've got enough legs?
Yeah, quite possibly just that little bit more. I think it's kind of resting on Anthony Gordon's shoulders a little bit when it comes to that. Because like you say, Cole Palmer comes to feet, Jack Grealish comes to feet, Harry Kane comes to feet, Saka, you can make him do it, but it's not the first thing in his mind. Foden, another one of those players. So I think in terms of that, going in behind. And again, I think right back and left back, you've got Kyle Walker, not going to really do too much of that, really.
Yeah.
Trent, no, he's not going to be doing that either. And on the left-hand side, Trippier's certainly not going to be doing that. Luke Shaw is currently not fit. So that does concern me a little bit. I think maybe it allows for someone like Jude Bellingham to have a bit more freedom going forward. And again, Phil Foden, of course, is crucial as well. I think if Rashford had been in there, I would have gone, okay. Yeah. I would have let it go. I wouldn't have got too angry about it. But he's made his decision, and I think I kind of respect him for having the gumption to do it. James Tarkowski, joint most aerial duels won in the Premier League this season, 140. There's been so much focus on Branthwaite, but Tarkowski's done fantastically with him. He's tied with Virgil van Dijk when it comes to that. And Southgate likes that sort of, that big guy that can go and win it. Yeah. There's never any talk about Tarkowski, and with Maguire that somehow he survives. Do you think that he's a bit unfairly done there?
Yeah, I think he's just a little bit. He's not fashionable. He's not as fashionable as a Branthwaite, and Harry Maguire's done it for England under Gareth Southgate. Tarkowski's had a great season. He's already got his Everton picks in there. He's got Jordan Pickford, he's got Branthwaite. I don't think he needs a trifecta. But Tarkowski's had a great season. It's just unfortunate that, unfortunately for England, he's not played enough under Gareth Southgate for him to really put his trust in him and pick him for a major tournament. Yeah,
I think what does get forgotten is at Brentford, he was, that was in a team that really played. And at Everton, he's not really been in that style of team. But I think he's got a bit more to him than people think a lot of the time. And of course, Burnley before that. So we've just not seen that for a long time. Yeah. Morgan Gibbs-White, 15 goal involvements this season. I think I'm okay with this one. I think it's one where, again, congested area. Do we need another guy who's going to kind of be in the centre of the pitch? I don't think we do. And I think he plays too far forward to really be considered in the areas where there's options like Curtis Jones and Adam Wharton who've come in. Jordan Henderson. And I think the last three are good here. Ben Chilwell. It's your phrase, mate. If you're not fit, you're not it. I think it's one where I thought they might try and give him that opportunity. Yeah. But I guess it's at some stage you've got to kind of chill with that because... Sorry, I didn't mean to do it at all. Because he's kind of picked his horse in Luke Shaw and thinks he might be the one. Yeah. But he even said Luke Shaw was up against it. Ben White... I think everyone's gone into this one, but I've got to say, what a shame!
Because huge shame.
Him and John Stones as the two centre backs. That's a dream for me.
You've sorted it. And that's a huge one. And I feel like the door's always going to be open to Ben White because he's such a fantastic player. It's whether he wants to take the opportunity or whether he can resolve the issue that he's got with Southgate and Steve Holland.
That I think, if England don't go and win this tournament and there is a mistake at centre back, that will rear its head in a lot of conversations. Yeah. And then, the last one, the big one, I think, Jordan Henderson, in terms of being a leader in the dressing room and someone that he's kind of stuck by. How do you feel about that? Was it a waste sticking by him?
It's an interesting one. We all thought that when he joined Ajax with a view to play in the Euros in the summer, missed games through injury. Ajax didn't necessarily cover themselves in glory in European competitions, and he kind of looked old when I saw him play this season. But he's a player that Southgate used to make a lot about the leadership group, and he was part of that leadership group. Seems like they've kind of broken down that leadership group now, and it's kind of by committee. There's players that maybe are young but have a strong voice in the dressing room. And so I don't think Jordan Henderson's value to this side is as much as it was previously, because you've got players like Bellingham, who's still really young but experienced now. You've got Declan Rice, who's still really young but experienced and got that voice. So I don't think Henderson is as imperative as he was in other tournaments. I want to ask you though, out of all those players that have missed out, who is the one that when Southgate's calling them up to say, oh, unfortunately, mate, you've not made the plane, who's the one that's most gutted or probably taken by surprise the most?
I think Rashford and Henderson thought they'd at least get in the provisional.
Okay.
I think the fact that Southgate's called those two for the provisional and said, you're not here, you're not making it. I think you're right. In terms of leadership, it's actually you take out a leader to allow someone to flourish a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe he feels like he needs that for Bellingham and Rice, and actually just go, you are leaders in this entire group now. We need you to step up. I think he'll be devastated, Henderson. Absolutely devastated because, look, he made that call to go to Saudi Arabia. Who knows if it would have been different for him, especially in a Liverpool team that has been resurgent, but would he have been able to get in that midfield? We'll never know. But I think he'll be absolutely devastated to not be in it. But I think what it also says to me is that I don't think there'll be another big casualty when it comes to this squad, when it comes to the 26. Because if you're going to do that, I think you do that now. Well, he's proven that.
You don't think Jack Grealish's place is up for grabs?
No, I think he's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I think, and it's one where another question mark for me, one for the comments guys, is players that have been injured have also kind of been somewhat rested. Does that mean they're okay, or does that mean they're undercooked? Previously in tournaments, they've gone in and they've been running on fumes. So that's the difference here. You've also got no England teams in the, in the Europa League final, in the Conference League final, or in the Champions League final. Let's talk about the names within the squad then. Adam Wharton and Gerald Quansah, I think the two big surprises, I would say. Jared Branthwaite had been in the last squad but hadn't played. Just wanted your thoughts on those three. Like, are you surprised? Do you think they could make it the whole way?
Quansah, I'm happy for him. I'm happy they were selected for this squad. And he obviously played next to Virgil van Dijk for this whole season, and that's great learning, right? It's if you're setting up a team of Football Manager, you get Van Dijk to tutor Quansah. That's what you do. That fits perfectly, and I think he's modelled his game on Van Dijk as well in terms of his ability to play out the back, and also he's got that commanding presence. Maybe needs to build into his body. I think he's one for future tournaments. Yeah. Hopefully, the World Cup in 2 years, he's ready to be that centre back next to John Stones possibly. So I think he gets trimmed. I look at Enesri Konsa, and it's difficult, right? Because Villa have been really good this season, and he's been good for a while. Great, yeah. And if you talk to any Villa fans, it's like, yeah, this is a long time coming. Like, he should have been on the plane for maybe previous tournaments. But I think where you've got experienced players in this team that Gareth Southgate already knows, I think that's where those two players will maybe fall short. Yeah.
Adam Wharton, I will just say, Levi Colwill, I don't understand why he's not involved in some way.
Especially because we've got an issue at left back. The one recognised left back in that team, Luke Shaw, we know that Kieran Trippier can do that job as well.
Watch out for Trent in these friendlies. Watch out for Trent on that left-hand side, then stepping in there. You would have known that already if you'd watched my video on that, which I'm sure you can go and search after you watch every single ESPN video. Adam Wharton, got to touch on him. Curtis Jones, who's in the squad, and you kind of go, oh, that's his first squad. He's been in the under-21s, been a really dominant figure for them. Really pleased that he's in there. Curtis Jones, I think he offers a few different options for us. Adam Wharton has come from nowhere.
Oh, I love it.
Well, he's come from Blackburn, but he's been absolutely amazing. Big question for me is, do you want another 8 or do you want another 6 as the backup for Rice? I've got a feeling Adam Wharton's got a real chance here.
I think Adam Wharton goes. I think Adam Wharton goes, which is insane. And I remember my mate who's a Blackburn fan, George, he was telling me about Adam Wharton. I'm not brushing it off. I'm like, yeah. He goes, oh, he can go right to the very top. He's giving me the Harry Redknapp to Frank Lampard vibes. I'm like, cool. And to see Adam Wharton ascend towards the back end of the season in the Palace team, who are the most informed team in the country, is incredible. And I think that this is why I give Southgate so much credit. Deserves a call-up, right? And if you're looking at pathways for players who've performed well at their clubs, they're young players who are aspiring to reach the top level, bringing or calling up someone like Adam Wharton gives players that incentive to go and try and progress and try and play their best football, to put forth a performance that can potentially get them on a plane for a major tournament. I think Adam Wharton and both Kabamoni go to the tournament.